What's up, family? I'm live. Hope everyone is having a good weekend. I wanted to get on here a little bit earlier today. I was trying to get on in the morning time, but it's just, it's some work putting together these lives, making sure you got all your stories and everything right and exact. You know what I mean? And when the family comes into the room, family, if you could do me a favor, let me know where you tapping in from. I want to know like the demographics of people that's, viewing my content and watching my content. I see I only got a few people in here now, but as you come into the room, family, let me know where you tuning in from, so I can give a shout out, to wherever y'all from out there, you know. If don't nobody, put in where they from, I'm just going, start getting into it. But I hope everyone is having a good weekend, relaxing, enjoying your time and whatnot, because I got a lot of stories and things I want to touch on today. I got a lot of, some funny, some more serious, but as usual, we're gonna be taking care of FBA business, every day, all day, So let me know, family, when you coming into the live, where you tapping in from, because I wanna shout out the family and see where everybody, just to know for myself, like where everybody's tapping in from. I don't see nobody putting nothing in the chat, so yeah, let me move on. Um, Yeah, family. I want to touch on. I don't know if any of the family was seeing this, but it's a lot of these FBA sisters that been going to hospitals and things getting janky medical service. You know what I mean? Two FBA sisters was pregnant. Two different hospitals, two different separate separate incidents. The one sister went into the hospital. She was turned away, and she ended up having the baby in the car. That's a bunch of nonsense. And then I see one to where though a sister came in there with her mom, and this was all over TikTok. These videos went viral too. And the sister went in there with her mom. She was having the baby, and they had this white supremacist Karen nurse, try to make her mom go grab the wheelchair instead of her grabbing the wheelchair, and just was running our sister around the long way, saying she needs to fill out medical paperwork, this, that, and the other, instead of getting that sister back to be seen by a doctor. You know what I mean? Okay, peace to the FBA family. Renaissance woman in Texas. Peace to the Texas FBA family. Um, yeah, she was just getting janky medical service and things like that. Family say, and the white supremacist Karen nurse tried to make her fill out a whole bunch of paperwork. The sister sitting there on tape, saying the baby's, coming out her behind. She felt it coming out of her behind. She damn near jumped out of, the wheelchair. You know what I mean? And come to find out, lo and behold, this white supremacist Karen nurse got a long history and track record of doing this. People went out and pulled the receipts on her for me doing my little homework and due diligence. So she got exposed, and I think she's on like suspended right now from being a nurse. You know what I mean? But I don't advocate sisters to go to hospitals anyway to give birth. Because foundational Black American women, it's a long history and track record of the medical care industry doing our sisters harm and no good, mistreatment, this, that, and the other, and Black women getting provided janky service. You know what I mean? I suggest that sisters, have babies at home if you can. Go about it the more holistic way. You know what I mean? Because these damn, medical industries don't give a damn about our people. You see it left and right. I see that all the time of Black women getting janky service. And hopefully them sisters pursue a lawsuit with that. You know what I mean? With that janky service they was, getting provided. Peace to the family, Jeff. Yeah, hopefully they pursue like some kind of, suing the pants off of the hospital, because the hospital is liable too, and taking up, suing them janky nurses, you know what I mean, for giving them janky service, because like I said, the one sister got turned away, and the other sister, uh, that sister that got turned away actually had the baby in the car, and the other sister, I think she ended up having the baby at home or something. I don't want to get the line, but the two sisters, for sure as hell got provided janky, health care service, and they was damn near having the baby, and they were turned away and just ran the long way, and you could bet your last damn dollar that if that was somebody white, a white lady coming in there, giving birth, they would have been back there quick, fast, and in a hurry. It was race based, it was done because these sisters were Black women, and like I said, more often than not, Black women get janky healthcare in that medical industry. You know what I mean? So I'm an advocate of more, doing things at home. You know what I mean? If you can afford to do so, have the baby at home because it's more of a healthy, holistic manner of birth and things like that. They are very ignorant towards FBA women. If it hadn't been for my mom, me and my daughter would have died. Yeah, that's shameful, sis. I'm sorry to hear that, Renaissance woman. Yeah, I've long, known that they gave black women, foundational black American women in particular, janky healthcare service, and that's unfortunate to hear. Once you know, foundational black American sisters start suing the pants off these hospitals and they workers, they get the damn hint, and stand away from these hospitals. They notice they money going down. They get the hint. You know what I mean? But moving right along, I want to touch on some nonsense going on over there in Africa, Nigeria in particular, family. I got two stories coming out of Nigeria. One where though it was two people kidnapped and no, two people dead. My fault. Two people dead and others kidnapped at a church. Mass gunmen went into church and just did a bunch of nonsense. You know what I mean? And the tethers love to sit up and focus on what we got going on in FBA society, but turn a blind eye to what's going on in their damn homeland. You know what I mean? And that's a bunch of nonsense. So yeah, let's get into it, family. I got the audio and the video of this, and we're gonna walk through and talk about it how we normally do. But this is shameful behaviors, going on over there and on the continent. You know what I mean? And instead of the tethers addressing what's going on in their homeland, they like to sit up and focus on FBA society. You know what I mean? And now Trump's supposedly going over in there, to Africa. I mean, yeah, Africa and Nigeria in particular, you know what I mean, saying Christians are being harmed. I don't believe that though, but I believe it's propaganda. But I'm not putting a cape on for people, over there on the continent either, because we FBAs, we tried to warn these, tethers of, the dangers of white supremacy. They sit up and say, you FBAs, all you do is talk about racism, white supremacy, leave the good white man alone, this, that, and the other. Now they getting a wake up call, they being targeted. And Nicki Minaj, they fellow tether, was over there advocating for, Trump to go over there into, Nigeria, and that's a bunch of nonsense, but I believe it's a lot of propaganda, but but they for sure as hell got to get it together over there, because two mass gunmen just going up into a church, willy nilly, kidnapping folks, two people unalived, and I'm hearing left and right over there on the continent, every other day, people are kidnapped and they got sex trafficking going on. I want to be careful of my words on here, but they got a lot of that going on, running rampant, to where though, parents are just willingly, giving away their kids for financial gain. And that's a bunch of nonsense. It's all type of, wickedness and nonsense that goes on over there. You know what I mean? Shameful behaviors that the damn tethers don't want to focus on, but yet they want to, constantly have their nose up in foundational black American business and issues, when they should, be addressing this nonsense how I'm about to show you, family. Renaissance woman. It made me not want to have any more children. She was my first. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that, sister. Let's get into this, family. Fair use.
Terrifying moments at a church in central Nigeria. A pastor and his worshippers are in the middle of prayer when all of a sudden, the sound of gunshots sends them running for cover. Seconds later, the gunmen are inside. Officials later say at least 2 people were killed and others were kidnapped. The attack adding more pressure on the Nigerian government following threats of military intervention by President Trump over what he calls the persecution of Christians in one of Africa's richest countries.
See, I believe that's propaganda on the part of Trump, just to go over there and, do whatever the hell they want to do. But on the same note, I ain't putting the capes on for these individuals. I don't want to see nobody hurt, harmed, and injured. But we told these people the dangers of white supremacy. They want to sit up and say, leave the good white man alone. You FBAs, all you do is talk about racism, white supremacy. Now they got this nonsense going on, to where though Trump getting ready to go in there full force. But the tether don't want to focus on this. And peace to my brother, YUSU. Salute and peace, my brother.
When asked if he'd consider strikes or even boots on the ground.
Could be. I mean, a lot of things I envisage, a lot of things, killing the Christians and killing them in very large numbers. We're not going to allow that to happen.
Now an unlikely supporter, rapper Nicki Minaj.
And a fellow tether advocating for Trump to go over there. You know, it just shows you the mindset of these, you know, tethers.
Who was born in Trinidad, speaking at the UN last night.
I would like to thank President Trump for prioritizing this issue and for his leadership on the global stage. In Nigeria, Christians are being targeted, driven from their homes, and killed.
But in Nigeria, a country that's 50% Muslim and just 48% Christian.
But they do got a lot of, you know, sex trafficking going over there. I want to be very careful about my wording, family, but they got a lot of that going on over there, you know, and that's nonsense to where though people just literally giving away their kids for profit and gain. And that's a bunch of nonsense because FBA society on its damn worst day, we ain't got no nonsense going on like that to where though people just giving away their kids, you know.
Violence is a complex and sweeping issue. Nigerian authorities tonight continue their search for more than 20 girls who were abducted in the middle of the night by armed men from their predominantly.
See, they was abducted, 20 girls, and they was probably most likely put into those trafficking, you know, rings and networks, you know, and that's a bunch of nonsense. But like I said, this goes on every other day, you know, more often than not over there on the continent of Africa, you know, but the tether class don't talk about this kind of, you know, nonsense and degeneracy that's going on.
Muslim school. Among the dead is the deputy principal. His wife telling reporters.
Yeah, they unalived the deputy principal over there. I forgot to mention that.
He pleaded for his life, got up to pray, and she says that's when they pulled the trigger and killed him. The school is located in northwest Nigeria, a mostly Muslim region of the country that is grappling with an Islamist insurgency. Most notably in 2014, the Islamist group Boko Haram kidnapped 270 girls, while many escaped or were later released. Some have never returned.
We have been investigating this conflict for over 15 years now. And
I covered a video on my channel, family, to where though a FBA sister, she was over there, I guess, you know, living or doing some kind of business over there in Africa. She said that's normal protocol over there for people just to give away their young kids for profit and gain.
I believe that reducing it to religion simplifies the whole situation. The country is overridden and by gunmen who are on rampage and they kill people regardless of their faith.
The Nigerian president pushing back on claims his country is religiously intolerant, saying it's a democracy with constitutional guarantees of religious liberty.
Danielle Hamamdin joins us.
I believe it's nonsense going on over there in Nigeria, the continent of Africa, but I believe some of that is propaganda, you know what I mean, for them to use it as an excuse just to go over there and do whatever the hell they want to do.
Tonight from London, and Danielle, Pope Leo just this week, and also referencing Nigeria as well.
That's right, Tom. In a post on X on Sunday, Pope Leo said Christians are suffering discrimination and persecution in various parts of the world, and among the countries he listed was Nigeria. We should also mention that those gunmen you saw.
There goes that damn Pope that they was trying to say was black or something like that. He for sure as hell ain't black.
Earlier in the piece, didn't only kidnap the worshipers from that church, but the pastor as well.
And then Danielle, so we have any sense of why President Trump has taken such an interest in Nigeria with that post on X?
Yeah, a lot of people had the sense or that this came out of nowhere. In fact, according to multiple U.S. officials speaking to NBC, this all started with a Fox News report on violence in Nigeria earlier this month.
Yeah, we tried to warn the tether class of the dangers of racism, white supremacy. They wanted to sit up and tell us to stop, you know, attacking the good old white man, you know, and we call out racism too much. And now they got this going on, you know, and it's a bunch of nonsense, you know, but hey, you know, people got to hold their own candle. I wish, you know, nobody harm, you know, mistreatment nor abuse, you know, I don't want that on nobody, you know, but they got to handle their own candle. We tried to warn them, but let me move right along, family, to this next story that I wanted to touch on coming out of Nigeria as well. They touched on it a little bit in there too. In that news segment we just watched, they touched on it a little bit. Damn, pop-ups. Where am I at? Hold on, family. Let me get the video. There we go. Now this next one is 25 girls abducted by armed, gunmen over there in Nigeria. You know what I mean? And that's a bunch of nonsense. You know what I mean? These girls were in a school. They came through there and just grabbed them up. But like I said, they putting a lot of these uh, young kids and women over there into them sex trafficking rings, and that's a bunch of nonsense. But the tethers love to sit up and talk about what's going on in FBA society, yet turn the blind eye to this. But this is sad and unfortunate, though. That stuff like this goes on over there.
The assailants who were reportedly armed with rifles stormed the government girls' comprehensive secondary school in Nigeria's Maga town in Kebbi State at around 4 a.m. on Monday. According to police spokesperson Nafiu Abubakar Kotakoshi, the gunmen engaged police officers in a fight before jumping over the school's perimeter fence and seizing 25 female students. The school's vice principal Hassan Yakubu Makuku was also shot.
And they said a lot of these young girls and kids that be put into these rings, they never be found again. You know what I mean?
Dead in the incident.
He urged me not to cry and to continue praising God. I joined him in his prayers. Then they pulled the trigger and shot him. As he fell, I immediately rushed to touch him, but they pointed a gun at me and said, "If you touch him, we will shoot you."
Police say additional units and local vigilantes have been deployed to search through suspected escape routes that may have been used by the attackers, as well as surrounding forests.
We see the parents that their children who have been abducted. And we give them confidence, we give them our words that we'll do everything possible to ensure that their children are being rescued.
Like I said, the tethers sit up and focus on little random isolated incidents where there might be some crime in the FBA community. In every community got crime, but they like to focus on that and blow it up, yet turn the blind eye to this, what's going on in their homeland. And this is, in part why these tethers got to flee up over here to the USA, the land that us FBA's built, because they don't got enough codification, over there in their homeland with corrupt politicians, this, that, and the other, and they ain't got enough unity to come together and, get out the elements of crime, corruption, and things like that. When we as FBAs, we made America better. America would have still, been under slavery in for the most part, because they wasn't trying to get rid of no damn slavery. The racist white supremacists. We FBAs, we forced their hand to get rid of slavery and injustice like that. From black folks having to go to separate drinking water fountains and separate bathrooms. You know what I mean? So we stood on business, but they lacked the codification to stand on the kind of business, we stand on, to get it together. They got too much tribal beefs and things like that over there, to come together in solidarity and unity. You know what I mean? And they'll love to sit up and focus what's going on in FBA society when FBA society on its worst, they ain't got this kind of nonsense going on.
Northwest Nigeria has witnessed repeated abductions at schools by armed gangs. The militant group Boko Haram kidnapped 270 schoolgirls in 2014 in the northeastern town of Chibok. While many of the girls managed to escape or were later released, some have never been seen since then.
See, that's really disheartening right there. Some of them young kids never be seen again. You know what I mean? And that's a bunch of nonsense,
This latest incident is yet another reminder that learning institutions in Nigeria still face threats from armed groups despite recent government efforts to improve security in schools across the country. Wilkisanya Wasijitian.
Yeah, family, I just wanted to touch on this nonsense going on over there, this shameful nonsense of, people being abducted, even young children over there in Nigeria. And that's a bunch of nonsense, So the tethers really, that's disheartening to hear, So my condolences goes out to, those people. But, I really can't do no advocating for them, because the tether classes sit up here and, love to point their finger to FBA society while turning a blind eye to this, you know what I mean? And that's a bunch of nonsense, And we tried to warn folks about, Trump and his regime now getting ready to go over there. And we tried to warn folks, but, folks was on, the tether class was on some leave the good white man alone. So we wish them well, but, they got to handle their candle, But, that's disheartening to see them young kids going through that, on the same note. But moving right along. What else did I want to touch on? Yeah, family. California passed a bill called SB 518, and it's basically a classification for descendants of slaves in here over here in America. You know what I mean? But the thing is, that's good. You know, in all actuality, to a certain degree, we just gotta watch it. And um, some red flags though that come with that to me is, you know, this SB 518, you know, which they going to do as of 2026, I think, where though that designation to be on legal paperwork, but they discarded the SB 1403, and that would have been a little bit more tightly codified, you know, with freedmen language, and you know they would have had a freedmen board to where though they would have checked people's lineages and been it would have been a little bit more specific. And this SB 518, it's gonna, they say, from what I was doing my little homework and due diligence, they say it's gonna be like a designation to where though they're gonna examine reparations more carefully, and then it's gonna be a designation on legal paperwork for descendants of slaves, but it's going to benefit the broader people who were oppressed as well. So my thing on it is, why not just go with the SB 1403, because it was a little bit more tightly codified. You know what I mean? And this new SB 518 will be overlooked by the Civil Rights Department or something. So that sounds like a, you know, bunch of nonsense that could be going on with that, even though it's a good thing, you know, on the surface. It seems like a good thing, but we just got to keep our eyes on it and watch the lingo and the language to make sure that everything's tightly codified and no tethers are slipped into, you know, the reparations process that should only go to freedmen, you know, foundational Black Americans, you know. So I was more in favor of the SB, you know, 1403 getting through there, you know, but the SB 518 got through there, and that's gonna benefit, to my knowledge and understanding, like I said, descendants of slavery, but it's also going to benefit the broader people, it was saying too. So that could, you know, we got to just watch that no tethers or no non-FBA slip through there. So I got the audio and the video of this, and we're going to talk about it. Let me pull it up, family. I think this is it.
California made headlines for creating a...
Peace to my sister Black Love. They will do what they want, but we will get what's owed. FBA. Yeah, we damn sure gonna get what's owed to us. You know what I mean? We just gotta be going to these committees, and when they discuss reparations, getting involved in our local government, you know, and going to these meetings and just going to meetings that's going on in the community, so we could keep our pulse on the climate of the community. You know what I mean? And things like that. But we got to make sure the lingo don't get shifted away from foundational Black American, you know, because I would have more liked to see that SB 1403 go through, because it was more tightly codified with the freedman status, you know, and this one just says like American descendants of slaves or something like that. It's not as tightly codified, that SB 518 that got through, but they're going to explain it in this video, family. Fair use.
New reparations office. But here's what most headlines didn't tell you. It wasn't just a name change. These were two competing bills, two visions for who should control reparations. A bill labeled SB 1403, the Freedmen Affairs Agency, would have created a powerful, independent department led by lineage advocates, but it failed.
See, I would have liked the Freedmen Agency, where it could be led by freedmen advocates more than the SB 518, because that's led under the Civil Rights Department, and the Civil Rights Department got a lot of non-FBA tethers in there, to where though, you know, when we need to get things done, as far as, you know, reparations allocated, they could stall it up or try to derail lineage-based momentum.
Instead, SB 518 passed, forming a bureau under the Civil Rights Department, using broader descendants language. Now,
see, it's broader, and that can encapsulate more people, so we got to watch it. And, you know, while it is a good thing on the surface, it's just, they should have went with the SB 1403. It would have been more tightly codified, to where though people can't slip in through the back door that are non-FBA.
On paper, descendants of American slavery sounds specific. It does filter out global claims, but it also widens the door inside the U.S. Because once you replace freedmen with descendants, you trade lineage for language. that opens space for broader interpretations and dilutes the very group this was meant to repair.
See, it should have never took out that freedman status, because that freedman status, that's federally recognized, and that's a codified term that means foundational Black Americans. With them slipping out that term, my only fear is that, the tether class don't try to slip into this that's going on with that bill SB 518 out there in California. You know what I mean? While that will be it will be a designation for American descendants of slaves on paperwork, I'm hoping, that this don't become some free-for-all to where though the tether class is slipping in, non-FBAs.
In short, California didn't rename a bill. It chose sides. The independent Freedmen Affairs Agency lost. The Control Bureau won. Thanks for watching ABF TV. Please.
Yeah, family, we just got to keep our eyes on that aspect. And when it comes to things regarding reparations and our lineage that we go into it, making sure the language is codified, that nobody else gets the benefit off the work of our ancestors and them shedding blood, sweat, and tears and building a nation and never were compensated for, they just do, they were never compensated. So we got to watch out for this, you know what I mean? And just, while it seems to be a good thing, you just never know with these folks, you know what I mean? Because they for sure as hell don't want to see us get no reparations, FBAs to get our leg up in large part. And it's going to happen, but they just want to try to, the name of the game is just to stall it out as long as they can. But sooner or later, they're going to have to make good on it. You know what I mean? But moving right along. I just wanted to bring that to the family's attention. I would have preferred the bill SB 1403. But this is a crazy one right here, family. We got a white supremacist punk by the name of John Monteo. I think I'm pronouncing his name correct. But if I'm not, it is what it is. But we got a white supremacist punk by the name of John Mateo, I think. And he got a group called the Goyim Defense League. It's a white supremacist group. And now what they doing is they going on the internet. They targeting, young white kids for recruitment. And they also, bullying Black kids on the internet, and they got this app called Monkey, and that app called Monkey, it's a white supremacist app where they bully, Black kids, and kids are racially bullied on there, and to where though they do a lot of recruiting on this, Monkey app. I did my little homework and due diligence on it, so we got to keep our eyes on that because, these white supremacist cowardice punks are getting very desperate, and the kids that they're bullying on there, they're melanated, but they're non-FBAs because we FBAs, we're taught in the household growing up, that's embedded into, our families to teach our kids to stand on Black business, and you'll see in this video, they got melanated tethers holding guns to their head and letting, white supremacists, young white supremacists hold a gun to their head. And that's a bunch of nonsense because we FBAs, we don't be on that time. We don't let white supremacists do racialized things to us. We always stand on business, and we're the only group that has fought systematic racism, white supremacy, without letting our foot up off the gas pedal. And the white supremacists themselves know that FBAs are the only real true threat to systematic racism, white supremacy. But you got this cowardice, John Monteo, and he's talking, a bunch of nonsense, throwing around that N-word with the hard ER, coming at Black folks. And I don't know if any of the family remembers, there was a school shooting where though a young Black kid shot up a school, and he was a self-hating Negro, but he also was a tether. He's talking about, taking credit for it because in the manifesto, I guess this guy was influenced by this John Mateo. So the self-hating, tether, was influenced by this John Mateo and his Goyim Defense League. So, this guy, John Mateo, was like, I'm getting N-words with the hard ER to kill themselves. This is how much power my propaganda got. Just, doing a bunch of, over the top things in favor of the system of racism, white supremacy, but they weren't no damn FBAs because he would have said that N-word with the hard ER in front of an FBA and, did these racialized things even in front of an FBA youth, his teeth would have got knocked out because we teach our kids to stand on Black business inside of the home. This is how you know that they were tethers in this video that I'm about to show you, family. They were non-FBA, even that school shooter that was Black on the surface, he was a melanated tether. He wasn't no FBA, with that self-hating mindset and attitude he had, but we're going to get into it, family. But we got to keep our eyes on it's a white supremacist group called the Goyim Defense League. We got to keep our eyes on that. But I'm glad all of this white supremacy is coming out, because it puts us FBAs on point and on guard and lets us know, be on the lookout. Let me pull it up, family. Peace to my sister, Black 184. Let me pull this up, family. Yeah, but this video really had me mad. He was throwing around that N-word with the hard ER like it was going out of style, and if it would have, he was only doing that, truth be told, because he was on camera trying to flex, but if it was in front of a real FBA brother, he would have got knocked out quick, fast, and in a hurry. You could bet your last damn dollar on that. Let me turn this down so I don't get copyrighted. Here we go.
Begin tonight with a stunning reaction from a neo-Nazi at the center of an exclusive News Channel 5 investigation, now celebrating his possible role in influencing a deadly school shooting. Thanks for joining us tonight at 6. I'm Rory Johnston. Last night, we first revealed how that neo-Nazi targets online video chats that are popular with children, trying to spread his hate.
See, this tether is dangerous. He's going around targeting, white youth for recruitment and putting down black youth, even though they, tethers, the black youth, because they non-FBAs. Because like I said, we teach, our kids to stand on black business, from a young age. Even my mom taught me this, growing up, to have an affinity, towards black Americans and look out for my people first and foremost, so they were tethers, but, still, this is wrong. This tether, this white supremacist is very dangerous, and for the life of me, he should be locked up, for targeting youth for recruitment and, for some kind of abuse on kids, because, he's, abusing them with the words, these tethers, you know what I mean? So he should be locked up for that, just using, like abuse towards these kids on these apps, you know what I mean? But it's very telling that he's even able to do this, be throwing around that N-word at kids like that, even if they non-FBA. That's very telling, because, that shows you how the system of racism, white supremacy works, looking out for and coddling and pampering their own, because you could bet your last damn dollar that if it was an FBA brother, coming at little white kids and talking about doing, white people some kind of harm, he wouldn't even be finished his sentence before he'd be locked up and sitting in a jail cell.
Well, John Minadio was watching, and his reaction is something you have to see for yourself. Our chief investigative reporter, Phil Williams, continues his confronting hate investigation. Phil, this man apparently has no shame.
None at all. Last night, we reported that the shooter at Antioch High School left behind a manifesto that included material from John Minadio and his Goyim Defense League. So when he went back...
But keep in mind that shooter at that school, who was a self-hating Negro tether, he was a non-FBA, you know what I mean? Because they'll take this, young degenerate, piece of filth, self-hating piece of filth, and they'll try to paint that on all black society, like that speaks to, even black American society, which it don't. This is why delineation is important, because, they ain't able to, paint us all with a broad paintbrush. It stops a lot of, this nonsense from getting dumped on the FBA society.
Line later in the evening, I expected he would deny any connection. That was not what happened. And again, a warning, we've bleeped his words, but the cruelty may be tough for some people to take.
When I see these kids.
And family, listen to this white supremacist punk coward. He just throwing around that N-word with the hard ER like it's going out of style. And you see the picture of the degenerate he got behind him. I don't even want to mention his name because, the algorithm might try to slow down the live stream or censor it. But y'all can see in the picture who he got behind him.
Getting pumped up, saying white power, and they're getting ready for what's happening because they're having to live through this as children. I don't take back any of that at all.
On his latest podcast episode, neo-Nazi John Minadio was unapologetic as he played video from News Channel 5's investigation into his activities.
White power. There you go.
How he goes into online spaces frequented by kids.
You look like...
He goes into online space frequented by kids, they say, family, and he targets black youth. Now, these black youths in all actuality, they non-FBAs, but, still in all this is a dangerous white supremacist punk, and we got to keep our eyes out for, this website, this app, to where though he's putting out these videos on this app called Monkey, and there's a lot of, racist white supremacist ideology and bullying of black kids that goes on there, even though them kids is non-FBA, because, like I said, we teach our kids to, address racism, white supremacy on the home front. So that's embedded in us, but these tethers don't know no better. They sit here and go along with this program. And as this kid right here is going along with it. And that's a bunch of nonsense. He should be charged up, for abuse of a kid, though, for the nonsense he's doing in all actuality.
An ugly
Marie.
You hear what he called him? An ugly N-word. Now he got the monkey face, over his face, portraying himself as a monkey. This is a true coward, this guy. He wouldn't do this nonsense in front of a real FBA brother.
Children of color he meets there.
Now, why do we allow Jews to control all of our media?
And grooming white children to accept his hate, urging them to arm themselves.
You need to be at the shooting range, get ready to kill.
And to get ready.
See, talking about kill N-words with the hard ER. If it would have been an FBA brother or sister talking about going and killing white folks, they would have been locked up before they even completed the sentence. They wouldn't have this. So just the fact that he's able to operate on the internet, showing guns with this type of, over the top racist white supremacist ideology, it shows you how the system of racism, white supremacy works. They're looking out for coddling and pampering this guy. But just be on the lookout for family. His organization is called the Goyim Defense League,
To kill. What I didn't expect was him to fully embrace the notion that he and his group, the Goyim Defense League, might have played some role in influencing the deadly shooting last year at Nashville's Antioch High School. The 17-year-old shooter left behind a manifesto that indicated he had been influenced at least partly by
and that dude was a self-hating tether, non-FBA. So we got to put that out there, because he was talking about, and this is a guy is melanated and was talking about he hates black people, this, that, and the other. A whole bunch of, racist white supremacist tropes this young self-hating tether, was speaking on, So we got to put out there that, that he's non-FBA, because we don't, operate, in this capacity. We always stand on black businesses, foundational black Americans.
Nadio's hateful propaganda.
Yes! Yes! Let's go! Influencing to kill.
So you heard what he said, influencing N-words with the hard ER to, unalive N-words with the hard ER. He's real over the top, and he's happy about this, you know what I mean? So that shows you the mindset of this over the top, dangerous white supremacist, you know what I mean? This type of ideology to be taking it to kids on the internet is very dangerous. He should be locked up and sitting in a cell,
Yeah, propaganda's so strong over here. I'm gonna get all these to kill each other.
You hear what he said? I'm gonna get all N-words to kill each other. This dude is weak, he wouldn't, be talking that smack and bumping his gums in front of a real FBA brother or sister. We got his teeth knocked out, If he was talking that in front of me, I would have washed him up quick, fast, and in a hurry. He just over the top because he's hiding behind the comfort of a screen.
Something's deeply off with him, that this is where he feels comfortable.
In Manadio's videos, these Nashville parents saw a man who doesn't care about the consequences of his actions.
If I gotta go to heaven with I'm just gonna kill myself, man. I'm just kidding. No.
Here, acting in front of a child as if he's going to commit suicide.
Dude, what are you doing?
This is even dangerous on impressionable white youth, you know what I mean? Because he can get them, to the impressionable white youth mindset. He can get them to buy into this racist ideology, So this dude needs to be stopped, for abuse on a child, and corruption of minors, a whole host of things should be slapped on this dude ASAP.
Hang out this.
And here a pair of teen boys horse around with what could be real guns, and the black kid sticks a gun to his own head.
Nope, don't paint that on us, just him being a black kid. Don't generalize it. He's a damn non-FBA tether, because we FBAs don't joke around with racism, white supremacy, and let them, put a gun up at our head and, be sitting there conversing on these white supremacist, platforms like that. That ain't that ain't how we get down as foundational Black Americans. We operate on Black business first and foremost. That's a top priority. So you can't dump them on us, but that's a bunch of nonsense. And shout out to my people FBA combo.
I mean, that kid in there holds a gun to his own head, and then his friend holds a gun to his head.
And Manadio doesn't know whether those are real guns or toy guns, and he's saying, pull the trigger.
Here, you shoot him, I'll shoot this one.
You see, that white kid got a gun to that damn tether's head, and the tether got a gun to his own head. This is a self-hating mindset, and good thing we've delineated, because this kind of filth can't get, dumped on the FBA society. Folks got to be responsible for their own tethers at this point.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Boom!
While it may have been a joke for those teens, these parents say they see nothing funny about this neo-Nazis' hate.
And the more you...
It ain't nothing funny about that. That rhetoric is dangerous, and he's programming, the youth with this, impressionable youth, white youth, and, he's targeting Black youth with abuse and things like that. Even though they non-FBA, this guy still needs to be stopped. So I just wanted to put the spotlight on this cowardice, punctified, racist, white supremacist.
Do it, the more normal it's going to be. So the next time when he's mad at his friend, what's going to happen? How easy is it going to be to pull the trigger for real?
John Manadio begins his shows with a couple of disclaimers, perhaps for legal reasons, denying that he is encouraging violence.
John Manadio is a pussified, punctified, racist, white supremacist. You know what I mean? Because he wouldn't do this nonsense in front of no real FBA brother or sister. FBA sister knock his punk ass out.
But as you saw there, he has no problem celebrating it when it does happen.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that disclaimer, Phil. I think it's worth touching on for parents who may not have seen part 1 last night. Explain where he's actually interacting with these kids.
Yeah, it's in these roulette-style video chat apps where people meet strangers. One is called Oh Me TV.
Right.
Oh Me TV, keep an eye out for that website, family. It's a racist website with a whole bunch of racist white supremacist propaganda on it.
Another is called Monkey. None of them is a...
And that website called Monkey, I did my little homework and due diligence on that, and they got a lot of, racist white supremacist ideology on there. You know what I mean? So I just wanted to bring this to the family.
Place that any child should be.
I know this is not the end of the investigation.
We will continue.
Phil, thank you. All right.
Yeah, but I'm glad this stuff is coming out because it puts us FBAs on point, so we know what to look out for, and the Goyim Defense League, that's now become on my radar, so I just wanted to let the family know, look out for that. But moving right along. Let's see what else I wanted to touch on, family. Yeah, I'm a jump over here to TikTok, family. I got some videos on a lighter note. We're going to have some fun and roasting up these tethers real quick. So we're going to hop over there to TikTok. I got 2 classic bangers, music songs I want to play for the family. 2 classic joints. Peace to my sister Black Love. Yeah, we're going to hop over here to TikTok, family. Just a second. Let me figure out how to do this. Because I don't want to drop the stream. That's going to drop the stream. Let me see. Come on. Hold on, family. Let me get this together. I hate jumping from YouTube to TikTok, but sometimes TikTok got the videos I need to talk about and discuss. But TikTok just throws you into the queue, and I don't like that about TikTok, where though you can't just go dig out the video you want. It always throws you in the video pool. Let me see. Okay, family. I got to go to my like videos. Okay, family. I got 2 bangers, music songs I want to show to the family. I don't know if any of the family has heard of these joints, but these joints are straight bangers. You know what I mean? Let me play them, and hopefully I don't get copyright. But this is on a lighter note. Uh, Getting at these tethers. And these songs are, have me in here crying, family, in my house crying, listening to these songs. But listen to this one.
Tell the president.
Hopefully, hopefully I don't get copyrighted for this, family. But I'm gonna go ahead and share this music. And it's funny as hell. It had me in here bugging.
Tell the president. Why did we elect the president? We should have known better. Why did we elect the president?
Listen to this part right here, family.
Whom would rather see two men together? Wow.
Remember Obama was talking that nonsense of young boys need to go to men or something like that, but it was it was something zesty he said. It was a few months back. I don't know if any of the family remembers, but he said something zesty about young men going and getting going to men, but he didn't say it in that way. I'm paraphrasing. I don't know how he said it, but it was zesty.
Why we should have known better than to put our trust into a tether who allegedly likes men as hard as leather, perpetuated our civil rights so you can do what you like. Is it Michelle or is it Mike? Or is it all the same when you turn out the lights?
It ain't stopping, family. But yeah, I was trying to get it to pause. TikTok be acting janky, for the most part. This is why I don't like come and get videos over here. But you should see the comment section to this music video. Tether's in there mad. UFBA niggas is going too far. You know what I mean? The Tethers was in there, mad about this. But it's the truth. This dude sat up here and did not a damn thing for FBA society, and we the ones that put him in office. I know I voted for his nasty behind 2 times. This is why I don't vote no more. 2 things are specifically done for my lineage. And then he's going to prioritize, more policing, rainbow gang rights, and turn a blind eye to us FBAs, But this song had the Tethers mad in the comment section. This is why I decided to play it. It's trying to freeze on me.
The lights. FBA, I'm a major resident. We don't need another tether president. Why did we elect a tether president? We should have known better. Why did we elect a tether president? Whom would rather see 2 men together? Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy, but there's a lot of truth to power in that song. It's funny, but all actuality, it's the truth in there though too. And the Sister Black Love, he basically said young black men need to have conversations with the gay community. Why? Yeah, he did say, yup, something along them lines. Thank you for that information, my Sister Black Love. Yeah, that was a bunch of nonsense, trying to put that trying to program, black youth to be zesty, it's a bunch of nonsense, and he passed that gay, where everybody got the right to do, whatever they want to do, I just, particularly don't like him because he turned a blind eye to FBA society, and he passed that gay marriage thing too. He did a whole bunch of things for other people when we FBAs put him in office, So I wanted to show y'all that, family. I got another hitter for y'all too. You know, I'm gonna put this other song on here. This had me crying too in my house. And it's something, I don't know if this is a radio station, family, but every time I find these videos, it says Tether Radio. So I don't know if somebody's doing a Tether radio station or whatnot, but these songs are straight bangers. Listen to this, family. Sure you. How many times have y'all heard that come from, Dominican Tether, that me not black? You know, hell, even, continental Africans, they say that they ain't black. I've seen videos with them saying that they ain't black, darker than me, running around talking about they ain't black. These people have been psychologically defeated. But let's get back into it. This is a hitter. People only want to claim blackness when it's convenient, when they could get something tangible, when they could try to, get something off of our ancestors' hard work and success, off of FBA lineage. Then they want to claim blackness.
Me no black, me no black, me no black, me no black, me no black. I am Dominican. I like rice and beans, not colored greens.
Y'all hear that, fam? Y'all hear that? He said, I like rice and beans, not collard greens. This should be cracking me up, fam. This is funny as I don't know what.
I like hot tamales, not chicken wings. I like Jamaican patties, not jambalaya. I appreciate bush meat and fresh pop.
He said, I appreciate bush meat.
And fresh papaya. Me no black, me no black, me no black.
Damn, family, these are hitters. These need to be on the radio in heavy rotation, man. You know what I mean? But yeah, I just wanted to bring these songs to the family's attention. You know what I mean? This is something I always find these videos. They come up and down my timeline, something called Tether Radio, So I don't know if this is a radio station, a real radio station, or this is just somebody, putting these songs together via AI. But one thing for sure, two things for certain, they for sure is hell funny. And it's the truth in these songs, masked in a funny way, but these songs are still putting out the truth in all actuality. I don't think somebody had too much time on their hands. Whoever said that, Primo One, they telling the truth. Folks come over here and want to, just do a bunch of nonsense when it regards FBA society, and we the people that paved the way. There should be a little bit more respect and things going on, and people kissing the ground foundational Black Americans walk on, not telling us we don't deserve reparations and stop coming at systematic racism, white supremacy. Somebody got to come at it, somebody got to fight it. Everybody can't just flee, you know what I mean? Because if everybody flees and just keeps running from it, it never gets knocked down. But yeah, moving right along. What else did I want to touch on? Okay, we over here TikTok with it. All these next videos are over here on TikTok, so we're gonna play them. Okay, family, this next video I'm gonna be showing y'all. This is a FBA brother, I believe he's in Philly. He went to a Jamaican restaurant and got janky service. This is why I say that we FBA stop supporting, anything that don't value our business, and support Black-owned businesses first and foremost, because more often than not, these Jamaicans and these African tethers are just as bad as the Asian tethers and the Arab tethers and the YT supremacists, in terms of how they treat our people at their business. They don't value our people. their business, you know what I mean? And yet, you know, they come into the FBA community, set up shop. We build these people up by supporting them. Then once they get their weight up, they want to start disrespecting FBA society. This is why I'm for supporting FBA businesses first and foremost, you know, because this is how we get our leg up, you know, and our people value our patronizing a business, and it keeps the money locked into our society, you know. So damn supporting, you know, outside of the community at this particular point in time. You know, we got to start really supporting FBA businesses and, you know, looking out for our people first and foremost, which we doing, but we just got to make sure we keep, you know, tooting that horn and putting that messaging out there, you know, be about FBA society first, you know, and patronize FBA businesses whenever you can. There might be some times where you got to go out the community to get what you need, but make sure you try, you know, to support that FBA business first and foremost, where they value your support, you know, and the money ain't gonna leave the community. Because like I said, these damn, you know, Caribbean tethers, Arabs, Latino tethers, you know, what have you, Chinese tethers, you know, they don't give a damn about our people. They look down upon our people, yet they set up shop in our communities. And once they get their weight up, you know, they want to, you know, fix their face, you know, to come at our people sideways. So I want to talk about this, you know, brother who's FBA who went to a Jamaican spot that said, you know, they were giving him janky service. They didn't even acknowledge him. He was standing in there for about, you know, 15, 20 minutes looking at the menu, and then, you know, they walk right past him, and he was trying to make conversation, so they acknowledge him. They never once acknowledged him or his business, you know. That's saying, we don't value you, we give a damn about you, you know, go elsewhere, you know what I mean? Because you could bet your last damn dollar that if that was a YT person coming in there, you know, to this Jamaican spot, food spot, you know, they for sure as hell, you know, would have been kissing white ass, you know, and giving them service quick, fast, and in a hurry. So I got the audio and the video of this family. We gonna talk about it and do how we normally do, fair use. But you know, I'm gonna keep tooting that horn of support FBA businesses first and foremost, and leave these damn non-FBA people alone. There might be cases where you got to go outside the community to get what you need, but make sure that person values your money. You know what I mean, and values you as a you know a person. Don't be sitting up doing, you know, business with these people that look down on our people. You know what I mean? When our people got businesses and institutions set up to where, though, you know, we can support our own, and that's benefiting us in the long run by practicing group economics, operating as a team, you know, and that's keeping the money in our society as foundational Black Americans. But let's get into it, family.
Went to this Jamaican spot thinking I'm gonna get something to eat. Not once did he greet me. Not once did he say, hold on, you know, I'm with a customer, I'll be with you shortly. I'm just...
Yes, Sister Black Love, we must remember how my Sister Black Love is saying. She's speaking truth to power right here. We must remember to keep our money from anti-Black communities. Yeah, that's a great way to say it. We must keep, we ain't gonna be able to just, you know, get everything from FBAs. I know this, you know, realistically, but just make sure that you keep your money from people that's anti-Black. You know what I mean? If you know about it, don't patronize them. You know, they got a history of, you know, serving, doing Black people, foundational Black Americans janky. You know, even if they melanated, don't support them, because these damn, you know, tethers come over here and they become, you know, just as worse or worse than, you know, the Asians, the Chinese and the Arabs, you know, in our community. They exploit it, you know, and want to fix their face to look down upon our people, and damn that. I started over. I started that.
Went into this Jamaican spot thinking I'm gonna get something to eat. Not once did he greet me. Not once did he say, hold on, you know, I'm with a customer, I'll be with you shortly. I'm just sitting in there thinking I'm not supposed to be in there, you know. And then I walked out after being in there for 10 minutes, not being greeted. So now I'm gonna sit out front of this oxtail.
See, with me, you ain't got to show me, but for 1 or 2, you know, minutes that you ain't, that I ain't got your attention, I'm out of there. You know, I ain't gonna be nowhere where I ain't wanted. You know what I mean? Because, you know, I just don't move and operate that way. Once I go into an establishment and they don't come, you know, to seat me or at least acknowledge me and let me know, hey, I'm, you know, dealing with this, that, or the other, and I'll be right back to you, I'm out.
Making food, 1441 Snyder Ave. That's where I'm at. I'm gonna sit out front of here and I'm gonna look for me another spot. before I leave here. That's what I'm gonna do. That's all. I don't know, man. People, I'm gonna look for another business to eat at in the front of his business because he didn't take the initiative to acknowledge me in his place of business. It's all customer service. I done already looked at the menu 10 times already. I'm already giving you eye contact. I'm already greeting you, one of your employees in the back. He don't even want to speak to me. You know what? I'm done. I'm gonna find me another spot in the front of your spot. Went into this Jamaican spot thinking I'm gonna get something to eat. Not once did he greet me.
Yeah, but I just wanted to bring this to the family's attention. And somebody in the comment section left a good comment. Big Hair 642 said, "They say we all look black. They say we all, my fault. They say we all look the same, but when we walk into their business, they know who to how to mistreat us and tell us apart." Yeah, I agree with that. They know how to tell us apart when we walk into their business. They know when these tethers know when somebody FBA walk into their business, because it tells, in their disposition, how this brother was saying he was in there several minutes before somebody even acknowledged him. 10, 15 minutes. That's a bunch of nonsense. That's saying we don't value you or your dollar, we don't give a damn about you or your people. So, I say we stop supporting these people. Anybody that's anti-FBA, don't support them, don't give them none of your damn hard-earned money. Look to support foundational Black American brothers and sisters first and foremost, because like I said, it's numerous benefits that go along with this. You practicing group economics, the money staying in the community. People really value you patronizing them. And that helps us collectively get a stronghold. You know what I mean? The more we support our own business, the more we empower ourselves, and this is a part of taking control of power. So I just wanted to bring this, to the family's attention, to say stop supporting these damn non-FBAs, or anyone that got, anti-FBA disposition. Don't support them, Instead, support your FBA brother or sister whenever you can, because the African tethers and the Caribbean tethers, they just the same as these Asians, Arabs, and YT supremacist people, in regards to our people, providing them janky service, yet they got the nerve to want to, set up shop in the Black community, extract that FBA dollar. But when they get their weight up, they fix their face to look down upon our people. So yeah, just support FBA businesses first and foremost, family. That's the long and the short of it, We're moving right along. I don't know who this person is that says crying about not being addressed. It's the way you're supposed to address somebody when you conduct business. It ain't about crying. It's about bringing spotlight to this brother not being treated right. You know what I mean? So you can get the hell out of here with that. I don't know if you the op or what. I don't know if you're opposition or what. It ain't. He is. Got the right to say how he feels. About the situation because he was provided janky service. So moving right along. I'm off of that. Just wanted to bring that to the family, support FBA businesses whenever you can. And I'm going to leave it there, because these people don't give a damn about our people. But moving right along. Let me see what I wanted to touch on, family, just a moment. Because I got my stories I want to touch on written down. Yeah, family, I want to talk about, I'm going to move off of this and I'm going to go back to TikTok. Let me see. I'm going to go back to YouTube.
When I switched to Allstate, I saved hundreds.
Turn that down. American Copper Skid. I don't know if he was opposition. My fault, if I was, said something that, put something on you that wasn't right and exact, but yeah, I was just trying to make a point that, we gotta, bring it to the attention, but he was kind of, stating, that he was being, mistreated, but don't patronize him. I get what you're saying, but on the same note, they shouldn't be providing janky service as a business. So I didn't mean to dump that on you, if you ain't, trying to be oppy, I thought you was trying to be oppy, but I could have been wrong. But yeah, let me get on this. Yeah, family, I'm gonna move into talking about the main theme of this show, and that's Professor James Smalls, FBA disrespect, and that's a bunch of nonsense, I think Professor James Smalls, not I think I know he was calling us, cowards, for not wanting to identify as Africans, saying that we were coming at, Africans unjustly, this, that, and the other, while turning a blind eye to all of the damn, tethers that come over here to our homeland, America, with this anti-FBA disrespect. And that's a bunch of nonsense, you know what I mean? Because that's the mindset of, the majority of these Pan-Africanists, they sit up and put the capes on for Africa and the Caribbean, while rather, trying to put down FBA society. And damn that, I think Professor James Smalls, even though he's an older elder of the community, he was wrong and out of pocket on this. So I'm gonna call a spade, because he's sitting up there trying to call out FBAs, for disrespect, and we ain't going to other people's countries and undermining them and getting in political office saying they don't deserve reparations, what they gonna spend it on, that they lazy, and calling them Makadas, this, that, and the other. We ain't doing that. If we go over to other people's country with the mindset that these tethers come over here with, we FBAs would be stoned to death. And furthermore, Pan-Africanism been around so long and it's gotten our people nowhere. It was a strategy, you know what I mean? And that strategy ain't working no more, and we were the only people as foundational Black Americans practicing, Pan-Africanism, for the most part, Africans on the continent, they don't even know what Pan-Africanism is, and Pan-Africanism has gotten us nowhere. We were the only people propping up and lifting up Africa. But when we seen that ain't working out, it's time to pivot to lineage-based strategy. And through this lineage-based strategy, the plan B, we getting further with that than we ever gotten with Pan-Africanism, in the words of our brother Afro Elite, because he's the one, shout out to him that brought this to my attention. So I decided to speak on it, with Professor James Smalls, jumping out there with this FBA disrespect, you know what I mean? Because I was one time, just for example, I was one time in a store and I had, you know, I was never a Pan Africanist, but I had the red, black, and green beads on with the unk on it, and I used to wear that in some of my older videos. But African Cat asked me what it means, and I started explaining to him, what it means, and he didn't even know what Pan Africanism means. So it shows you that we FBAs were the only ones propping up some Pan Africanism, you know what I mean, and trying to have global Black unity. These people ain't, having global Black unity, and we just submitting and calling ourselves some generic Africans, which we ain't. That erases our, distinct ethnic groups that was forged over here on American soil, which is foundational Black Americans. See, we're just supposed to be some, vague Africans, to where though people could come over here from the continent and the Caribbean, and undermine us, and exploit us without giving a damn thing in return. And damn that Pan Africanism has gone nowhere. It's a hamster wheel that just got you running around in circles, without really making no positive strides and momentum. So damn that, them days is over. Lineage based, is here to stay. We looking out for people based on lineage first and foremost, and anyone that don't like that, I'm gonna try to be respectful about it, but to hell with them, because lineage base is the new wave, and that's what we're gonna keep gearing things towards, lineage base, because that Pan-Africanism thing has gotten us nowhere, you know what I mean? And Professor James Smalls want to try to sit up and call us, cowards for not wanting to identify with Africans. Africans on the continent don't want to even identify with damn Africa. That's why they fleeing up over here. And we ain't some generic Africans. Why is everyone expected why are we as foundational Black Americans rather expected to call ourselves, African, and, other groups of people have their own lineages as well. A Jamaican got their own lineage. No one sits up and makes a big hissy fit about it. A Nigerian got their own lineage. No one sits up and makes a big hissy fit. That's because they want to exploit us as foundational Black Americans and erase us. And, they want to, piggyback off of our achievements and success without giving a damn thing in return. And damn that, and damn anyone, coming with that narrative, you know what I mean? Because that narrative getting shut down. Pan-Africanism died. It's a dead brand, and we on the strategy B, and through strategy B, which is looking out for lineage first and foremost, we getting further than what we ever been with the damn Pan-Africanism thing. Mark Curry, with all due respect, professor, but Jason Black said that you gotta look out for these old ninjas that's who he's referring to. Salute to my brother Mark Curry. Yeah, because Pan-Africanism, if it would have done something, it would have done something. It was just a strategy, for us to get our leg up, and it hadn't worked. It hadn't worked in how many years, and switch it to this lineage-based thing, now things is getting done. We got the talks of reparations being in the public lexicon, you name it, and it's all through lineage-based, because the power ain't erasing yourself as an ethnic group. That's what these good folks are saying that they want us to do, erase ourselves, and identify with Africa, and damn that, we got contributions, fly stuff our ancestors did over here on American soil, and we just supposed to deny that and pick up some African identity, ain't nobody in our families as foundational Black Americans been in Africa, for hundreds of years. We had an ethnogenesis. That's why, and we got, indigenous, aboriginal in the lineage as well. The aboriginal and the Africans that was brought over here, we formed a new ethnic group, which is foundational Black Americans on this soil, so I ain't negating my ancestors' contributions on American soil to pick up some, African identity, because that's erasure, you know what I mean? And ain't no one else, being forced to, they got a problem with, they don't got a problem with them, recognizing their lineage. Why the hell do they, got a problem with us foundational Black Americans, Like I said, everyone gets to be, their own lineage. But when it comes to us, we supposed to, be Africans to where though people could come over here and erase us and, piggyback off of our achievements and get benefits and aids and things like that should be going to FBAs. And damn that. So Professor James Smalls was out of pocket, and we're going to get into it. Fair use.
Them or their concept or their attack against African peoples or the attack against Pan.
Let me play that from the beginning.
I'm not FBA. Do not support them or their concept or their attack against African peoples or the attack against Pan-Africanism, which shows a lot of ignorance and misunderstanding.
First of all, he is a foundational Black American, you know what I mean? Professor James Smalls is of the lineage, but Professor James Smalls, he's out of pocket on this because Professor James Smalls, I believe he's speaking this way because he got some financial things tied up in Africa to where though he gotta, he don't got to, but he's speaking like this because he got some financial dealings with Africa, you know what I mean? And FBA's, he's talking about he don't support the attack on African peoples. What about these people's attacking vitriol for us and coming to America, with their anti-FBA disposition? We can't go to someone else's homeland and, get in political office and tell them, they don't deserve no reparations, undermine them, and attack them and, say things like that about their people because they have stoned us to death over there in them other countries. So, damn that. And that's typically the mindset I see, coming from these Pan-Africanists, Dr. Umar included, and a lot of other ones as well. They want to sit up here and, let the continent of Africa and the Caribbean off the hook while, pointing the finger at foundational Black Americans. Damn that narrative.
I am an African. And If someone wants to clip that little 2 minutes to try to create a critical negative, let those same person look at the other 100 plus videos that I have.
And he talking about a video where he was talking up in New York on somewhere. I think it was on in Harlem or somewhere, talking about, uh, the tethers coming over here and they're brainwashed. They've been psychologically defeated and stuff like this, So he's talking in response to that, but he's out of pocket on this one. You know what I mean? And it's time to switch gears. And that Pan Africanism is a dead brand, and I don't give a damn. What he say? With all due respect, we ain't gonna stop representing the lineage, and them wheels ain't gonna stop moving for anyone or anybody. What's being done now through advocating for the lineage ain't gonna be undone. We gonna get what's rightfully owed to us as foundational Black Americans, and we ain't gonna be stopped. You know what I mean? Because Pan Africanism, like I said, it's a hamster wheel that you just running in place, not getting nowhere. Because it erases us, ethnically, and the things that we've done over here on American soil, and wants us to pick up some vague, Pan Africanism and pick up the continent of Africa. Damn that.
On the
Yeah, James, but not any of those videos have anything.
Yeah, but family, I'm gonna get to it's more of this video. I'm gonna play it on brother Afro Elite's channel, because I don't know for the life of me. I keep finding them, but they're all chopped up. I can't find it, in its full form. And he got a good bulk of the video, so hopefully I don't get hit with copyrights, from this. But I'm gonna play it from his channel. Shout out to brother Afro Elite.
By everyone.
To where it is now. To where it is now. With that accent being all. Let's see, okay. Now this is signed in. Now we're all signed in here. Hold on. Now I'm pulling it up. Here we go.
Can't find it.
Get this off the screen.
How he got it.
Here we go. It's been a long time, but we're going to get it done tonight. I don't care how long it take me. Okay, because now they can't sign me out like they were doing. Okay, here we go.
But I want to make it clear to people in the world, I'm an African. When I say identify myself racially, I'm an African. African American is an ethnic identity that has to do with where I live. America is a geopolitical.
The problem with this whole thing is, why ain't everyone else required to call themselves, African? Why is it cool for Dominicans to have their lineage, Puerto Ricans to have their lineage, Nigerians to have their lineage? Because they want to erase us as foundational Black Americans and our contributions by, claiming some vague, Africanness, and damn that, my ancestors did fly things here on American soil and was responsible for building America. So I'm not going to negate that in favor of, picking up some vague African identity, and damn anyone trying to push that narrative. Because like I said, Professor James Smalls got financial dealings over there on the continent. Because I remember one video where though he was talking about a hotel or something he got some money invested in or something like that. So yeah, he got vested interests over there, so damn that, we pushing this FBA lineage base from here on out, and it is what it is,
Political place. It's not a race. Africa is my race. Africa is my genesis. Africa is my culture. And I want to make it clear, I am not ADOS.
First off, even the term African American, notice that we're retiring that term because
African American is a dead brand. It's too vague. How brother Afro Elite is saying that's a dead brand. You know what I mean? Because anybody is African American. You know what I mean? Elon Musk is an African American. Anyone coming over here from the continent is an African American. We're foundational Black Americans. It's a more tighter term, and that's why everybody's upset with the term FBA, because they can't flip it and make it to be something that they want it to be. And it represents a specific lineage of people, because we're not just gonna sit up here, and let ourselves be erased as an ethnic group. You know what I mean? Because our ancestors demand justice, and we need tangibles allocated to foundational Black Americans. And picking up some vague, African identity that undermines us in so many ways. And it's a slap in our face to our FBA ancestors that paved the way over here on American soil by, turning a blind eye to them and trying to, pick up some vague people over there in Africa. And none of any of our foundational Black American ancestors have been in Africa for hundreds of years. We had an ethnogenesis, and I keep on emphasizing the ethnogenesis.
You have people like Myron Gaines, the one who just called us monkeys. Myron Gaines calls himself an African American.
Shout out to my brother
Wells. You have people who are first-generation immigrants coming over here saying, well, I am African and I'm an American citizen, so I'm an African American. Obama sitting up there calling himself an African American. So yes, this is why we retired that.
Support them or their concept. I'm not FBA. Do not support them or their concept or their attack against African peoples or the attack against.
And we ain't really attacking nobody. Folks come over here, they attack us, sit in political office and say, well, we don't need this, that, or the third, and try to, generalize the history of America to make it as if America was built by some damn, immigrants, which it wasn't. It was built by the hard work and, forced labor of my foundational Black American ancestors. And we won't be erased, And Professor Smalls just got the cape on, for Africa, because he got some financial interest over there. You know what I mean? And while turning a blind eye, to the mistreatment that these folks come over here and display the FBAs. You know what I mean? The majority of these Pan-Africanism cats, they only want to address, what's going on in FBA society, while letting folks in the Caribbean and Africa off the hook. Damn that.
Against Pan-Africanism, which shows a lot of ignorance and misunderstanding. I am an African. And if someone wants to clip that little 2 minutes.
Well, you be African or whatever you want to be, Professor James Smalls, but over here we standing on this lineage business all day, every day.
It's to try to create a.
Because if Pan-Africanism could have gotten our people to, where they need to be at as foundational Black Americans, getting our leg up, it would have been done it. We tried it, it wasn't working. Now we're shifting to Plan B, which is lineage based, picking up the soil.
Critical negative. Let those same person look at the other 100 plus videos that I have on the YouTube. And there's a couple of thousand more videos if you want to really go looking, and you will find they're 100% pro-African, pro-freedom.
And we ain't even saying we ain't about nobody. That's another dynamic I forgot to mention. We ain't even saying we don't want no unity. Us representing a lineage don't mean we don't want unity. We as foundational Black Americans, historically, we looked out for everybody to our own detriment. We just saying, do what you got to do and handle your candle, get it right. And, we going to be over here focused on FBA society. Folks is having a whole hissy fit about this because they can't exploit us no more, because we've codified based off of lineage and we've delineated, and delineation, ain't supposed to be, all inclusive. It's supposed to be, divisive. We got our own lineage and folks got to put some respect on it, whether they like it or not.
Pro-identity, pro-Pan-Africanism. So don't get me confused with yourself, because you're cowards and you're afraid to identify as Africans because you.
We ain't no cowards because we don't want to identify as Africans. Africans on the continent don't even call themselves Africans. They call themselves, wherever they from, Nigerian, Ghana, Ghanaian, so we ain't gonna be the only ones forced to, pick up some, Africa, at the detriment of our own selves, erasing what we got over here on American soil. If anything, with us doing, advocating for the lineage is powerful. It's us being brave, us charting new ground and breaking through new territory, whereas though Pan-Africanism was stagnating us, being about lineage based is helping us foundational Black Americans collectively as a whole get our leg up.
You don't want the responsibility to fight for freedom. I'm not a coward. I'm 80 years old.
Okay.
And I've spent 60 plus of those 80 years in a day-to-day constant.
And in 80 years, Professor James Smalls, that, you know, he said majority of that he was a Pan-Africanist. And all them years, you know, Pan-African hasn't moved the needle in the favor of us foundational Black Americans. It's benefited, you know, people from the continent because they get to come over here and they had us. We don't do it no more, but we used to, you know, advocate for them, fight their battles for them. You know, we fought for them to even get over here. So it never benefited us. It was about, you know, us being exploited by these other groups of people and them coming over here, getting a piggyback off of our hard work and success. And damn that.
Freedom fight on the part of my people. So cowards, if you want to be critical of our race, if you want to be, and anyone have a right to criticize ourselves and our race, we have a right to do that and try to be appropriate. And so I say to brothers and sisters, if my tone was inappropriate, I apologize to myself and to you for that. But people are not going to use me to support their backwards, ignorance point of views.
Okay.
As regard.
We're gonna pause that right there.
Yeah, but he got a lot of nerve, you know, Professor James Smalls. And I know he's an elder, but damn that, wrong is wrong and right is right. You ain't gonna sit up and call foundational Black Americans no coward for representing the lineage when, you know, we've been the bridge for cats to get over here, you know, and we've been exploited, you know, been that group that's been undermined by the same people we trying to help. Damn that. It's a new day and time, and we looking out for people based off of lineage first and foremost. We ain't trying to be divisive, you know, but if cats want to perceive us representing our FBA lineage as divisive, go ahead and, you know, view it. Everybody else got their own lineage. A lineage by nature is divisive. It don't include everybody. So damn that, you know, Pan-Africanism is a dead brand. It's died. It's that hamster in that wheel that's been running around, you know, for many laps, but get nowhere. He's just burning himself out, you know. So we ain't, you know, on that kick no more. It was a strategy, and that strategy is dead. It's gotten us nowhere. And the new strategy, the new game in town is looking out for folks in your own lineage, FBA all day. So I just wanted to touch on that, you know, because he was out of pocket and out of order. You know what I mean? And that kind of, you know, that does get me mad when folks do that, because the mindset of these Pan-Africanists, you know, are to let African and Caribbean people off the hook while trying to condemn foundational Black Americans. And we don't go to nobody's country and homelands and undermine them, get in their business and affairs and, you know, try to stagnate them and talk down on them, because them people will stone our people to death. They couldn't do it, and you know we couldn't do it in the same way. You know, we ain't allowing that no more. You know, it's a new day and time, and cats is getting called out, and it ain't cowardice, you know, of us not identifying as we're Africa. We ain't no damn generic Africans. We got the unique history that was forged over here on America's soil, and we ain't gonna let anyone or anything erase that, you know. And we standing on that, you know. So I just wanted to touch on that, and I'm getting ready to get off of here. Thanks for everybody tapping in with me, you know. And if you're new to the channel, family, make sure you like and subscribe, you know, because the algorithm be trying to, you know, stagnate me and suppress the videos because I be dropping this FBA truth to power. They don't like that, you know. They rather, and I think, you know, something else I meant to touch on. I think Professor James Smalls tried to, you know, flip it and say in another video, they chopped that video so many times I can't find all the clips, but he said something about us being CIA. You know, Africa is CIA if you want to, you know, play that game. You know, us representing the lineage ain't CIA. Pan-Africanism is the CIA because that has historically undermined us, you know. And how could we be CIA lifting up the lineage when, you know, they don't want us to get no damn reparations, you know. That by nature, us advocating for reparations say that we ain't no damn CIA because they don't want us foundational Black Americans to get no reparations, even though we gonna get it, because they know if we collectively, you know, all get reparations as foundational Black Americans, you know, we'll collectively get our leg up, be doing business with one another, and take our money out of their business and institutions and dump it in the FBA society. And then, you know, we're the only group of people that's strong enough to fight the system of racism, white supremacy, and we the only people that ain't coward enough, you know. We the only people that ain't cowards, you know, and we'll stand up to the system of racism, white supremacy. We'll stand up to it, and that'll make the system of racism, white supremacy collapse. so they don't want us to get no damn reparations. So, the Pan-Africanism stuff is the CIA, and that stagnated us for so many years, and erased our history and our uniqueness, you know what I mean? And that's done by design. And a lot of them Pan-Africanism cats, they tied into the Democratic plantation. They push Democratic agendas because, I believe the Pan-Africanists and the Democratic plantation are all in cahoots, you know what I mean? Because the Pan-Africanists, they feel that they benefit off of, the Democrats because it gets more of their people over here. But us foundational Black Americans, we don't benefit off of, all of these damn foreign tethers coming over here, coming into our community, undermining our well-being, bringing elements of crime to the community. So yeah, the Pan-Africanism is the CIA, if you really want to play that game, representing lineage business and standing on lineage business, that's bold and powerful. And that sets out a statement, that the white supremacist power structure don't like, because when we do get our reparations, they know that system of racism, white supremacy going to come tumbling down, So I just wanted to touch on that aspect, family. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you like and subscribe, because my videos are oftentimes, they trying to censor me and, not send notifications out. And I want to thank everybody for tapping in with me, but FBA, representing the lineage, that's the new wave, and like I said before in a past video, I liken us FBAs to an uncontrollable freight train in terms of putting on representing for the lineage. And anyone trying to, stop this forward momentum of this FBA freight train, they're going to get moved and ran over and pushed to the side. You know what I mean? Even old ideologies is being pushed to the side that never benefited us. It's about lineage business and standing on it from here on out. So I just want to say peace to the family and have a good weekend. Make sure you like and subscribe, and stay aware out there, family, because to be aware is to be alive. Have a good one, family.